Hello and welcome to the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. review show with me, Jolie. This is Seconds Out. Probably didn't even need to mention it, being as we've got three screens over there. I think this is the first video I've done for Seconds Out in the studio, so it's nice to be here, and what better time to be here than reviewing this fantastic event that happened last night between Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson. And it was an event more than a spectacle, more than a boxing fight, I think it's fair to say. And I'm going to be covering three topics, which is: were judges needed? Is this Legends Only League going to be happening more often, and what my thoughts are on that? And Jake Paul's spectacular knockout. I'll start with the judges because, let's be honest, going into the fight, looking at the fight, you were thinking the knockout situation was unclear. No one really knew whether there were going to be knockouts, whether there were allowed to be knockouts, if there were cuts, that the fight were going to be stopped. So there was a lot of cloudy sort of questions over the fight. I think it lived up to expectations, considering going into the fight, this has never happened before. And the way Mike Tyson was talking after the fight as well, it looks like he wants to be doing this a lot more. What we need to expect is to not expect a lot, if that makes sense. Don't expect knockouts, just expect guys with a lot of nostalgia, a lot of history in the sport, legends as it's called, to be just to be fighting for the enjoyment of loving boxing. And I don't think it's going to be one where we see knockouts very often if this is to carry on. But in my opinion, if it is to carry on, why do they need to be judges? It was a draw last night, and it was probably fair enough. It was probably fair enough to score that a draw. I think Roy Jones tired earlier than most of us would have expected. Looking what Mike Tyson gets up to. He's got a marijuana company business. He smokes a lot, and you don't expect him to go eight 2-minute rounds the way he did. So fair play to him for that. But the actual end of the fight, I just don't know how. I don't know how we didn't see the judges. Why weren't they at the fight? Why weren't they ringside scoring it properly? Because sometimes you see it different when you're on TV to when you're actually there in real life. So I feel like if they needed to see something properly, it's always best to be there. But going on to, will this happen more often, and who could that be involving? I've already seen Lennox Lewis say there's a possibility. He didn't turn down the option of seeing this happen again. Roy Jones said possibly, and it looks pretty obvious Mike Tyson wants to do this again. Which is, like I say, it's good for the sport of boxing, but for me personally, I don't think I'm going to be paying to see it again. Let's put it that way. I paid, I was with some friends last night. We paid to watch it for the curiosity more than anything, I think it's fair to say. But going forward, I think it's best to be free, because it's more of a fun thing to see on Saturday night. It's not a serious thing, and I saw a lot of people commenting the same thing. We need to separate the heavyweights of the modern era. I'm talking the AJs, the Deontay Wilders, the Tyson Furies. Separate these from the Mike Tysons, because it's almost a different sport because of the way this is being perceived. And I want it to stay that way, to be honest. So going forward, I think it's great if we see it, maybe every 6 months. With some old guys, but I don't want them coming anywhere near the guys who have retired in the last 5 years, or anyone who's fighting now. I want them to stay in sort of their own lane, because that's the way it should be. We all like seeing these guys fight, and Snoop Dogg definitely did as well. The commentary on the American feed was just so funny. I saw him saying this is like my uncle's at a barbecue fighting and everything. Like just watching him perform beforehand, it's not hurting anyone. Like Mike Tyson said, he's doing it to make people happy. Money goes to charity. So many positives of this event happening. I really don't see why Legends Only League can't become a common thing for retired boxers. I'd love to see some fighters return to the ring. I don't want to see anyone get knocked out. That's the only thing that will worry people, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I think cuts mean the fight are stopped probably in most of the fights going forward if it does happen again. So it's probably going to happen very safely anyway, so why not? It's not harming anyone. But I'm going to move on to the co-main event, the last topic of this video. Jake Paul absolutely smoking Nate Robinson in a pretty impressive display from him. It's pretty easy to say Nate Robinson's never had a fight. He was an NBA player, all of this. But you've also got to look at every single YouTube boxing fight. This was the best knockout by a mile. So it just proves to me how much Jake Paul's putting into this. But I had Jake Paul round one. Because if you look at his social media, and I'm sure people will have seen how hard he's training, the dedication he's putting into his training beforehand has just been second to none. So I knew he trained really hard, and you saw with the knockout, it was pretty clean. He knocked him down 3 times, and the last one was completely ruthless. Throughout all of YouTube boxing, we haven't seen anything like that, and I think Jake Paul's hunger has really shown last night. So fair play to him, and a lot of people don't like him because he's very cocky, he's very confident, but I think he's gonna go on to do some good things. I want to see him fight KSI obviously next. That's what everyone wants to see. Will he turn professional? When I say that, I mean, will he actually end up fighting people that people don't know? Professional fighters that don't have a name and they aren't celebrities. Who knows? I think everyone wants to see the KSI fight, but the way Jake's fighting at the moment, the amount he's training, he's obviously gets on with Ryan Garcia. He looks like he genuinely loves boxing. So it's going to be interesting to see. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. review with me, Joe Leigh. Thanks for watching. See you soon.